Hello and welcome to another special edition of a Judgment Gaming stream. So last time we brought you a best of five between myself and Owen. When it came down to the wire, he came out victorious in the end. Today he will be taking on a new challenger going by the name of Goodlife. Again, it will be another best of five conquest, but the difference today is that instead of playing, I get to cast it alongside friend of Judgment Gaming, Shinfitz. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
So we're going to kind of real quick go over the decks that we're looking at, what we expect out of the matchups, and then we will dive right into the games. So the players have already announced the decks that they're bringing and what will be banned. Owen has banned away Goodlife's Shaman. Goodlife has banned away Owen's Druid. So that leaves Owen with Rogue, Paladin, and Shaman. It leaves Goodlife with Druid, Paladin, and Priest. So we did see some overlap between these two players' lineups as far as classes go. Of course, we do have still a lot to find out. Is Goodlife running Token or Jade Shaman? What kind of Paladin decks both players chose to bring? That is the only actual duplicate class now that we have left after bans are done with. And we do see the interesting choice in Priest. Fitz, what do you make of that? It's something that we don't often see as much in tournament play.
I was just going to say that's what I'm most interested to see, how the deck kind of plays. My guesses would be some sort of Dragon Priest, even though I don't know if that's really viable anymore, especially with, like, I believe it's called Twilight Guardian is no longer around. I don't know, but we'll see. I don't really think the Silence Priest deck is really very good, but I think it's kind of the most popular one going around right now, so we'll see if that's it or something different.
Yeah, it could be. It's definitely fallen a bit from its stature as kind of the top priest tech for a while. It could also be the quote-unquote miracle priest, just kind of utilizing Lyra almost as a win condition, so we'll see. Of course, on Owen's side, we will have to find out whether he's playing Miracle Rogue or the community favorite of Quest Rogue, the deck that everybody loves. I know you're a huge fan of the interactivity that it brings. And so we'll see. And then, of course, Shaman, we have a few different choices. Could be mid-range, it could be the more popular token version. So we'll see. So kind of how these two match up. Obviously, Paladin is a hard one to call between the two of them since they're both bringing it. We don't know what version. I'm gonna make a few educated guesses here. I'm gonna guess Goodlife's Druid is Token Druid. It is certainly the more popular version of the deck. It can just kind of surprise you with wins on turn 4, turn 5 if you get a really fast start. Get a board buffed up by Mark the Lotus real quick, or get a Vicious Fledgling that's unanswered for a few turns. I'm going to guess that. On the flip side, I'm going to guess we have a different token deck in Owen's Shaman. Again, more popular versions. So if we're looking at that, those are two very real aggro decks. If Goodlife can queue Token Druid into Owen's Rogue, if it is indeed Quest Rogue, which I believe that's more likely. I've seen him playing some of that on ladder, so I'm going to guess that's what he's taking. Then that is a very good matchup for Goodlife. If, however, he ends up queuing, say, a slower Priest deck or a Control Paladin deck into it, then he's going to have a tough time. Of course, each deck needs to get one win. That's how our Conquest format works. So even if you do get a bad matchup, you still have the chance to bounce back. So we'll kind of see how each of these players go. Do you have any guesses on what they might be looking to queue up first? What their kind of matchups they're hoping for to find in the first round?
I'm not entirely sure, actually. I'm kind of in the dark as far as what I mean to say is I don't really have any guesses on what's going to be first, so I'm just going to be as surprised as I guess everyone else is.
All right, and it's definitely not a bad way to go into it. I know when we played, Owen brought out his Rogue first against me and kind of took a quick win with it. So it's possible he could employ a similar strategy here and just try to get that win out of the way and not worry about the bad matchups later on, hoping that his Paladin and Shaman maybe will a little more versatile, able to find wins against a variety of decks. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely excited to see how these two will go against each other. So we'll give them the go-ahead to get into games. So we'll see going into game one. I think it's hard to claim that one is favored over the other. I will say, as far as ladder rankings go, for those who are curious, Goodlife is ranked higher right now. However, that is on the wild ladder, not the standard, and of course we are playing in the standard format. So really, this could go either way. I don't know if we have necessarily a clear favorite heading into the match, but that's kind of what I like. You know, I want to be surprised. Hopefully we see some fun stuff coming out, maybe some new things that we didn't anticipate from both the competitors. So they're going to go ahead and get into game here in just a moment, and then we will go ahead and join them.
So while we're waiting, do you have any guess on who's going to be the victor overall? Anyone you're rooting for, maybe?
Well, it's hard not to root for Owen since he is a fellow member of Judgment Gaming, whereas Tony Goodlife is coming in from the outside. So, I mean, obviously I'm a little biased here. I'll try to keep that bias out of the cast. Though, really, mostly, I'm rooting for a good, solid set. Again, I think it's most fun when it does go to the full 5 games, so we get the widest spread of matchups and the most suspense, I guess. It's a quick 3-0 isn't nearly as exciting, I think, although there is some fun to it. So really, I'm just hoping for a good set where we get to see a lot of good Hearthstone being played.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any particular thoughts, or maybe a particular deck that you're hoping to see, or that you're hoping will surprise us?
Well, I'm interested in seeing the priest, like I mentioned, but as far as your take as a competitive matchup, I don't know. I kind of want to see some blood in the water. I think I want like a Mike Tyson fight. Like, I just want to see someone get destroyed. So
okay.
Well,
all right, so obviously we have a slightly different interest in how we want the series to go. So we'll see which one of us gets what we were looking for. So the two are just deciding which deck to start with, which is a very important part of the Conquest format. It's something that some people like and some people don't, in that kind of finding the right matchups is of somewhat importance. In that, you know, if you just kind of accidentally queue up into your worst matchups over and over, it makes it a lot harder to win the set. Not impossible, but definitely puts you at a disadvantage where suddenly, because you happen to find your bad matchups the first 2 games in a row, you're left having to win 3 games in a row to come back in the series. So we'll see what happens here and what kind of matchups they get. It does look like they are getting underway. So let's go ahead and join them here. So Shinfitz and I will both, yeah, so just go ahead and spectate both games so we can see their hands. Alright, so it looks like Owen will mulligan, just keeping the Maelstrom Portal up against Goodlife's Paladin. Which we can see 2 Hydrologists and Doomsayer, so it doesn't tell us a ton about what he's playing right now.
Yeah, it looks standard so far.
I'm sorry?
I said it seems pretty standard so far.
Yeah, it really could go either way. The question is whether the Doomsayers are just kind of teched into an aggro Murloc, or if the Hydrologists are really the only Murlocs and we're really looking more at a mid-range or control Paladin. That Wild Pyromancer actually tells us a lot. That tells me that it does look like it's going to be more of a controlling Paladin. Doomsayer's going to come out. Looks like it should pretty cleanly contest the Primal Fin Totem.
Unless does he devolve this turn?
I feel like it's probably not a good time for the devolve. There's going to be much higher value boards that you're going to need to clear, especially if it is a slower Paladin, which the Doomsayer does suggest. So my guess is Owen's probably going to be looking for a board later on which has much scarier minions to devolve. Obviously, Tyrion is always a great target for it. But my guess is, yeah, you're just going to go ahead, hit face, go ahead and grab the totem to reduce the cost of both things from below which are in his hands. And shift the turn. So that does allow Goodlife to play the Stonehill Defender onto an empty board and snap picks the Tyrion.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a pretty easy call off of your Stonehill Defender to grab a Tyrion Fordering when available. So that was a pretty easy choice for him. The speed at which he picked it has to have Owen a little concerned.
So at this point, it looks like Owen doesn't really have a play.
He had a couple options there. I'm actually a little interested in the fact he decided to just make a totem rather than play the 4-mana thing from below. It would have contested probably at least 2 minions on Goodlife's end. So it is a little interesting that he made that decision. And if he chooses to play the Getaway Coda, will allow him to get extra value out of that Stonehill Defender if it is the first minion that dies on his side.
Oh, definitely.
So we just see where he decides to play it from here. We do still have the option of a thing from below. You can still make a totem along with the thing. So he's going to choose to Maelstrom Portal to clear off just the Hydrologist, which means that he's going to get another shot at that one.
Mm-hmm.
So really, Goodlife is probably pretty happy with the way this game is going so far. We do see, again, he does have the Tyrion that he got off of the Stonehill Defender. Another Getaway Kodo comes off the Hydrologist. My guess would be at this point, Goodlife is going to be saving the coin for turn 7, so that he can coin out most likely Primordial Drake and then play Tyrion on turn 8, or vice versa. So he's going to coin an 8-drop into an 8-drop. It's looking like it's going to be a pretty strong play because the token shaman that Owen's playing really has not had a chance to develop much of a board to this point.
Yeah, it's kind of been, ever since that one Doomsday era was kind of stopped in its tracks.
Yeah, that was definitely a big deal. Now he does have a chance to kind of retake the board a little bit here. He does have the option of playing, even if he really wants to go wide on the board, he could even Mana Tide Totem into double thing from below, if he really wants to try to put the pressure on. Or of course just a Hero Power Totem is fine as well. Looks like he only goes from one thing from below, which is probably the right call.
Yeah, maybe one. It's interesting that he didn't do Mana Tide into the one thing from below, which should kind of fish for some answers here.
Exactly, and even there, even if it just gets destroyed, it still cycles for one card, and right now when you're staring down all these cards in your opponent's hand, and you're the deck that needs to be applying the pressure, and you're kind of lacking in that area right now, I think even cycling the Mana Tide is probably okay. So we will see a Wild Pyro Equality to clear the board, which is of course why he didn't play the second thing from below on the previous turn. So now the question is, does he Hero Power, or does he play the Doomsayer just to try to set up an empty board to maybe coin Tyrion on the following turn? It looks like that's the play.
Make sure there's nothing there.
And I think at this point it's really perfectly fine to just Mana Tide pass. He's going to devolve the Doomsayer. I feel like he's going to be pretty upset when he sees coin Tyrion on the next turn. I felt like he was almost holding the devolve for that, and maybe just got a little impatient. Or he's just hoping that if he sets up a board now, maybe he can deal with the Tyrion, or he's maybe just hoping that he doesn't have it, but I feel like this is exactly the play that Owen did not want to see here.
Yeah. So now he has to deal with this Tyrion.
It's probably about now where he is wishing he had held that devolve to bring Tyrion down to a 7-drop and to make that Voidwalker into a Wisp. I feel like he did have a little bit of an itchy trigger finger there. So, yeah, you do have the option of just Stonehill Defender to search for something.
Seeing what he gets. Another taunt.
She's going to go for Aya just for mana efficiency, I suppose. The thing is, this is his first Jade Golem. So, Patches was definitely not the draw you wanted to see either. So the Jade Golems are still very, very small. So even when Aya dies, she's only leaving behind a 2-2. Which is really not threatening.
Yeah, not really.
So we'll see. He's thinking about trading the Tyrion. You could even trade a Tyrion into the Taunt Totem and use the True Silver Champion to take down the thing from below just to keep the Divine Shield on Tyrion if you value that.
Right.
which would still leave him with 4 mana. It's enough to play another Stonehill Defender. Looks like he'll take that trade and just go for the Primordial Drake, though, and I can certainly respect that line of play as well. So there's Bloodsteel Corsair drawn right after Patches.
That doesn't help very much.
That was definitely in the wrong order. He will hold on to it just to take 1 charge off of the Ashbringer once Tyrion dies. So he'll only get 2 attacks out of it instead of 3.
Right.
But it's still a pretty rough position that Owen's in right now. The Primordial Drake, of course, has a big back end. The Alakir could be certainly interesting with the Bloodlust that's already in hand. Of course, Alakir would have to survive a turn before you could combo the 2 together, but if he does, could make for some interesting plays. It requires a lot to go right, but it could be Owen's way back into this game.
Yeah, but with the level of taunt stuff that Goodlife has, I don't think... I mean, he has the... What's it called? The
Stonehill Defender to create another one?
Well,
or
he has
Sacred Steed, yeah. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. He does have a lot of taunts left. So, he has Stonehill Defender, which is a taunt itself, and creates another one. He has Spike Ridge Steed. It's looking like it's going to be pretty tough for Owen to find a way back in here.
And this Primordial Drake is just eating, like, he can't really get past it.
No, especially when Consecration comes down to take away all of his minions. And again, another snap pick of the Fen Creeper here. Sometimes there is a strategy behind snap picking something even if you don't have a lot of great options, just to make your opponent concerned that you got, say, like another Tyrion. I didn't actually even get a chance to see what all of his options were. Fen Creeper, of course, isn't the scariest thing. We'll see. Owen might be going for an evolved play here, and he might kind of have to. We'll see if he decides to go with that line, or if he's content to leave the board as is. Looks like he's just going to pass. Obviously, it's not very difficult for Goodlife to deal with this. There's not a lot of threat on board. And other than Alakir, there's not much sitting in Owen's hand either. So we see a Rag Lightlord picked up as the draw for the turn, which could even almost just serve as the nail in the coffin. So even if Owen does manage to punch some damage through, Lightlord can just heal it back up. But this is
definitely. This is look like the choices Owen has are slim and none.
Yes. Somewhere in between those two. And of course, Goodlife feels free to swing away with the Ashbringer, with still holding a True Silver Champion in hand, which it looks like he might just go ahead and equip.
Yeah, might as well just spend the mana now. Man, he's been in control, it seems like, the entire game.
Owen's going to have to just go for an evolve play, really. He can send those 2 in. Is he going for... Oh, okay, well, I was mistaken. He does not have to go for an evolve play, unless he decides to after this. Just looking to get some damage. The weapon can take down the Primordial Drake.
Right,
It looks like he's going to go for an evolve. So he gets 2 2-drops and a 9-drop. Oh, the King Crush! I think that was pretty much best case scenario right there, wasn't it?
Definitely.
So we do see the Aldor Peacekeeper sitting in the hand of Goodlife, which will cut that dinosaur down to size if he wants it to. Or he might just choose to go with Primordial Drake and destroy it, which looks like that's the play.
Yeah, I mean, that just sweeps his board.
Yeah. Owen had to feel some sort of relief when he got King Crush, like maybe there was a way back in, but that second Primordial Drake really...
Yeah, that clinched it. But let's see, maybe he can get some...
See, maybe another... Here, not many good options here. Thing from below, clearly the best option is a 0-mana 5/5 taunt, but even that is...
Yeah.
Not the best.
Goodlife's defense is just impenetrable.
So we'll see. He even has the option of using Spike Ridge Steed on the Primordial Drake even, which will allow it to punch through the thing from below while still easily surviving. He could also just Aldor it to reduce its threat considerably. The options available to Goodlife here are plentiful, whereas Owen is quickly running out of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
There is still the Doppelgangster plus the other Evolve that's in his deck, which would get him 3 6-drops, but
I
that's
mean,
still
that
2 cards.
wishing for a whole lot.
It sure is. And he's even just going to go ahead and Aldor the thing from below just to minimize the damage that the Primordial Drake takes. Which is actually a good idea, because with the Jade Lightning, I believe that saved it, since it saved it 4 damage.
Yep. And even when it dies, he has to punch through another taunt minion.
Mm-hmm. So you could consider Jade Lightning the 3/3. You just have a taunt up to kind of protect yourself a little bit, just to make a 5, to just destroy a 3/3 and make a 5/5 for 4 mana is still pretty good value. And I think it's really what you kind of have to be looking at here. I don't really know if there's any other play that makes a whole lot of sense.
He may be thinking of chip away at the Primordial Drake.
Right. I mean, you do have the option of Bloodlust. So he's going to go ahead and Jade Lightning plus Maelstrom Portal, which allows him to trade in. Of course, he still gets a 2/6 taunt remaining. He's now down to 6 life himself. Now, the only saving grace is Paladin, of course, doesn't have much in the way of direct damage, but he really doesn't need it.
Right.
So not a lot of great options off that Stonehold Defender, but at this point, did you really need it?
I mean, another big taunt, I don't think Owen could really deal.
Yeah, there's really not much for him to do in this game. The Jade started ramping up a little too late. That was a good play of the Codex. If it hit the taunt, you would have been only 1 off of lethal there.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss him? Oh no, I'm sorry. He did attack with yeah, because if it hit the taunt, he would have been 1 off lethal. That's correct.
All right.
So, I mean, you can Bloodlust plus True Silver Champion to try to get through some of the things. Of course, playing the Totem eliminates that possibility. The taunt was what he was looking for there.
All right.
But even so, that's still game. He still has 2-3 attack minions on board. And just go ahead and run the patches into the 1/1, I would assume. So on board, we're 1 off lethal right now.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see what happens here.
Depends on what weapon. No weapon for Goodlife. But even still, I think he's kind of sitting pretty at this point.
Oh yeah, I mean at this point it's just a matter of on what turn does he win, I think. There's no board I think that Owen can build up that's big enough to let Bloodlust really be a game changer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Which is looking for eye for an eye here just to seal it. Doesn't get it, but
I'll be what's gonna. Well, what's. Oh. Yeah, and this taunt just kind of puts a nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm. It's just one more thing that he really can't easily get through. Plus the Noble Sacks, that even 1 attack does get stopped.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Jaw of Firefly doesn't help. That will be the game.
Yeah, this is pretty much it. Oh, he can't even really. Well, I suppose he could use his True Silver on the right target, but. Yeah.
And Owen just got the bad news that Noble Sacrifice was picked and comes out with the concede. Alright, so game 1 does go over to Goodlife. Um, it wasn't. It was a longer game, but it wasn't a particularly close game. I'll say. It really
not at all.
was controlled quite well by Goodlife from beginning to end. What were your thoughts there?
Okay. You kind of went in and out for a little bit.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think it really, the first Doomsayer play was really what sealed it. Owen wasn't able to get a lot of momentum going, and maybe had he have pulled the trigger on, I think his major downfall was not pulling the trigger soon enough on Devolve, and then using it too soon when he had when he dropped Tyrion. So
Right.
just not using Devolve to its fullest, I suppose.
Yeah, it was. It's interesting because I feel like he knew that he might need the Devolve going into turn 8, and then on turn 7 just got really scared by the Doomsayer and pulled the trigger when he didn't. If he was able to devolve the Tyrion, it might have been a little different, but even so, he was in a losing position before that turn anyway. So it really would have been just kind of hoping that nothing too bad came off the Devolve that he would have been able to deal with and try to claw his way back in. Tyrion definitely made it harder, but that game was definitely in Goodlife's favor. I want to say almost from the beginning, because Owen had a much slower start than Token Shaman wants to have. We saw in the later turns all of his 1-drops coming out of the deck, the Fireflies, the Patches, the Bloodsoul Corsair, all of those on like turn 6 or later, when really you need those early in the game to build up your board. The Primal Fin Totem at the beginning would have helped, but of course the Doomsayer coming down really kind of negated that game plan. So at the time I told you that I would not have liked to devolve there, and I'm still kind of sticking with that, just because he wouldn't really been able to deal with much after that. But it definitely, in hindsight, I suppose, might have helped. But how are you, as the Token Shaman player, how are you to know that all of your 1-drops are in the bottom third of your deck?
Oh, there's no way to know.
So again, we did talk about that there are some plays where Owen maybe could have been a little bit greedier. Like we talked about that one turn where he went for the Shaman Hero Power rather than just choosing to play a Mana Tide Totem to maybe draw into some of his answers. I feel like a combination maybe of getting the Mana Tide out sooner and holding the Devolve for turn 8 may have made things at least a little bit more possible for him to find a way back in. It certainly still would have been an uphill battle. But perhaps those are some plays that he could have made that may have let him dig for answers a little sooner.
Right. But here's the bottom line, is that all of that is speculation. Here's the fact. The fact is that now Goodlife, I think, has some key information about the Shaman deck, because now he sees that he is running Pirates in it. He has Patches in there. So a lot of I think some of the things that may have been a surprise now are not, because Owen kind of showed probably a little bit more than he should have. I don't know, at what point do you decide this is a losing battle and not really give away a lot of the secrets of the deck, but I think a lot of the information was given away in this game.
Right, I mean, and that's it. So he knows it's a Token Shaman now. He knows probably, I mean, not that the Token Shaman lists vary greatly, but he is now well aware of what we're looking at here, in terms of whether it be Token Shaman or Mid-Range Shaman, so he's very well aware of kind of what Owen is playing, so that will be a big deal for sure. So the players are ready to get into Game 2, so we won't be seeing any more of Goodlife's Control Paladin, so we'll see where they go from here. So now I think the next question is, does Owen stick with a Shaman to try to find a win with it? Does he want to switch things up here? One sec. So we'll see. So the problem with a game like that is, and it's kind of what control decks do to you, and it's what you have to be kind of aware of as a competitor, is you play a long game where you're just slowly but consistently getting crushed out of it. And in a game like that, especially to start a series, can feel kind of bad. When you know that you had to take 15 turns to lose the game that you realized was probably lost on turn 5. So it's the kind of thing that will test you a little bit in your mental fortitude, in the ability to bounce back and say, okay, that game happened. Yeah, it wasn't fun. But now I need to come back and still put up a strong showing. It was only one game. The series is far from completed. And I need to come back and play my best game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Owen's really going to want to, just for morality's sake, want to come back with a win this game especially. And I think he may be going with Rogue for that.
You think he will?
I think so.
Okay. Well, they are getting into game now. We will see if you're right. And you, in fact, called it exactly right. We do see the Rogue queued up. It is going to be Quest Rogue. Owen will be going second. We do see the Firefly in hand, which is good. Obviously, he's going to be looking for some bounce effects to go along with that Firefly. Patch is definitely not the draw he wanted to see. So the opening draw is fairly mediocre.
Yeah.
For Owen, we do see that it is a Jade Druid for Goodlife, not the token that I expected. This is a much better matchup for Owen than Token Druid would have been. Jade Druid will give him time to find the cards that he needs. So we see the threaten coming out from Goodlife as he sees that it is in fact Quest Rogue.
Well, apparently nature will rise against him.
It certainly will. So we do see the coin Firefly, which makes sense. It contests the 1/1, and with another Firefly in hand, just a couple bounce effects will get the job done.
So what does Goodlife do here? Does he use the Wrath to make sure that he can't? Looks like he is.
Yep. Now, that's not incredibly important since you can just simply choose to bounce the Flame Elementals instead, instead of the Fireflies. So it's not a huge deal. Edwin, of course, not doing a whole lot. So I do expect we'll see... yeah, just the dagger is fine. He could have played a Firefly, just to have something on the board.
Well, I think he really wants to wait until he has a bounce. He doesn't want it to die, because that's kind of how this deck loses. You dirty rat out something, or you make a mistake by putting out something without a bounce, and it dies unexpectedly, and then you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, so it's really just a question of whether he was looking to bounce the Fireflies or the Flame Elementals. And it does look like his plan is Firefly, because if he was okay with bouncing Flame Elementals, I feel like he would have played out the Firefly already. But it makes sense that he doesn't, because even with that, he can still Firefly, bounce it, and that will actually get him pretty close. So we'll see how it goes. He does have some options here, but the board is starting to fill on the end of Goodlife. The Jades are already at 3.
Yeah, and he has another idol in hand, like it's...
And my guess is we're not ever going to see that idol used to shuffle, and my guess is we're just going to see it used to make a bigger Jade Golem, as Goodlife will attempt to overwhelm Owen before he can get the quest completed. But Aya is certainly a fine play on this turn if he wants to go that route. Of course, you always need to clear off the Rogue's board when you can, and right as I say that, he chooses not to trade.
Well, I don't think this kind of build runs something like Whole Blood or anything like that, so...
No, it does not. But even so, it's always possible that if Owen had, say, Shadow Step plus Prep, he could always, surprise you with an earlier quest completion than you were expecting.
This is true.
So he does mimic a lot of Swashbuckler. Not necessarily the card he was looking for, but not terrible. He's already played 1. So
yeah,
with a bounce effect, he can play those plus a bounce to complete the quest with that card instead of his original Firefly or Flame Elemental plan. But the Jades are getting huge quickly. This is actually a very fast start for Goodlife's Jade Druid, faster than we would have expected. Drew very, very well for the matchup, while Owen is actually drawn fairly poorly.
Extremely.
And now he will take that trade that I expected him to take last turn. And as I predicted, the Jade Idol will never be shuffled. It will just be to make a giant board. And actually, we're threatening lethal already. I don't think there's much one can do. He does have Prep Vanish, which will save him for a turn. And I expect that will be the play. He can even Prep Vanish into Edwin Van Cleef just to make a 6/6 himself.
He can play a exactly.
Or he can just go and try to go ahead with the quest completion here. He can Prep Vanish and then play the Firefly. Of course, he cannot finish the quest this turn, but he can set himself up to have a board to make a bunch of 5/5s next turn.
Mm-hmm. And there it is. A later turn Crystal Cove than I think he wanted, but...
definitely. The deck really wants to finish it by turn 5 at the latest. Of course, Primordial Drake will clear off those minions, so they will not immediately represent 5/5s. It was a very fortunate card for Goodlife to have in his hand.
Oh yeah, this is looking bad for Owen.
It is, but he can pump out a bunch of 5/5s, whereas Goodlife has to spend the mana to bring out his Jade Golems back, so there's still a chance here. It's really just going to be a matter of what Owen chooses to go for. He'll play a Swashbuckler, see what he gets. Of course, Cenarius is not particularly good.
Ooh, and a 7/7.
It may have just been a little too slow for Owen. I think the Drake will certainly be going face, bring him down to 12, and again representing lethal on board. There's 2 Chargers in hand, 2 charging 5/5s. A 5/5 taunt will definitely be welcomed, I think.
But he doesn't have any bounce type effects.
Right, so he won't be able to have them attack multiple times this turn. But we do have the South Sea Deckhand plus Patches, so there's 2 charging 5/5s. And again, a 5/5 plus a 5/5 taunt is still pretty strong. The game is not necessarily over just yet. He's just going to have to choose how he wants to do this. You don't trade into Aya.
Oh, definitely not.
So he will go ahead and take out the 7/7. It looks like. Well, once the deckhand's attacked in, I can't imagine Patches is going anywhere else other than clearing off that minion. Seems to be hesitating on the attack. Does go ahead and make it. Just will have 2 mana to play with this turn. And it's nice to use on Tortolan Forager. I don't know if I agree with that play. I think making 2 5/5s rather than 1 5/5 that adds a random minion to your hand may have been better, as he really is going to need to contest the board.
I agree. I think that was a mistake. Yeah. Having the extra body would have probably been better.
Yeah, I really don't care for that play. I definitely think he needed the extra minion already on the board. But we'll see how that decision works out for him. Obviously, Goodlife is starting to feel a little bit of pressure now, but he still has plenty of options in hand. Earthen Scales is going to probably be a big deal.
I don't know if he really needed this Nourish, but...
Yeah, that was an interesting one. So it looks like maybe Fandral Innervate Feral Rage?
I think so.
Yeah, that looks like the play. So we'll allow him to take out 2 of the minions. Or he might just go face for 8. No, he thinks better of it. So that's interesting. He trades off 1 and kills the other, and then goes face with the other 4. This certainly does make a lot of sense. There's one of the bounces we were talking about, which could be used perhaps on the Biofin to create a 5/5 taunt, which I imagine is probably the way that's gonna go.
I think the smart play here is you put the Biofin into. Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, let it trade into Fandral, then
kill this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, run both of those in. Play out just a bunch of your 1-drop minions. You can even play an Edwin. You can actually make a huge Edwin this turn. Don't play Scenarios. Don't do that. I mean, well, actually, Scenarios might not be bad. It does give him 2 5/5 taunts.
That's a good point.
So Scenarios might not be bad. So he has a choice of going with that or making a gigantic Edwin. Oh, he messed up.
Oh, he didn't do the combo.
He didn't combo it. Oh, so is the pressure getting to him here? He thought about making giant Edwin. Unless that was intentional.
I can't imagine that being intentional.
Well, it does kind of beg the question, what does Goodlife do against this board? There is just a whole... There is 45 damage on this board right now.
And I don't think he has any taunts at all.
So he might just Wrath to cycle, draw a card, but actually, maybe we're wrong. Maybe Owen did go ahead and find his way back into this game. I actually think that's going to be it, right? I mean, he can, yeah, Earthen Scales and Earthen Scales again to gain a whole bunch of armor, but again, so there's 45 damage here, and he is slightly out of... He is now 1 off lethal, but obviously you can just trade in here.
You just kill it, make sure, yeah, and then kill him next turn.
So we'll go ahead and summon... Oh, wait. Oh, we forgot about the Scenarius buff. So actually, that's exact lethal, isn't it? Oh, no, it's way over lethal. Just kidding. Alright, so a game that looked to be almost impossible for Owen to find his way back into, and suddenly there's just a million 5/5s on the board. And did we mention a 15/15 Edward Van Cleef, just for good measure?
Yeah, that was nasty.
So we were originally looking at the play from the perspective of, okay, let's trade it with the Biofin, bounce it to make a 5/5 taunt, and you can still make a good size Edwin that turn. Owen decided to just go all in. It looks like the Ferryman without the combo was intentional, as he decided he just wanted the extra body on the board.
Right.
So we were kind of looking at it for one play. He took a different line, but it did work out for him. So really, who am I to argue with success?
Yeah, and it looked like it was right on the money. Like he had exactly the amount of guys in play that he needed to seal out the game. So
right. I mean, he got past double Earthen Scales. You know, Goodlife gained 11 armor that turn, and was still overkilled by a fair bit.
Yeah, definitely.
That may have been the single scariest board I've ever seen in Hearthstone, I think. that was 45 damage just staring you in the face and saying, come deal with it, to a druid, which is, of course, a class that is notorious for not being able to deal with a board like that. Mm-hmm. There's no real AoE in druid outside of swipe, and swipe is just a little off the mark there in dealing with that kind of board.
Yeah, not Hype isn't exactly gonna do it. You need maybe like a rend or a maul, perhaps, but not a swipe.
So very, very good game for Owen. That one has to feel good for him, because that was a game where he seemed like he was completing the quest too late. The Jades were getting really big, but a very timely preparation for the Vanish, put him back into that one has to feel really good for him. So now you spoke about the importance mentally of evening up the series 1-1 rather than being down 0-2. So we are back to a level playing field. The Rogue did find a win in the one game that it played, so that's good for Owen, because again, we talked about how polarizing that deck is and how many bad matchups it can find. And honestly, I think it got a win that it needed to get.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
I guess
I'm sorry.
Important win.
All right, so we will let our competitors get into game 3 in the series that has now been evened up at a game apiece. So you predicted it right last time. Would you like to make a prediction as to what deck we might see in this game?
You know, this time I'm not sure. I think last game it was he kind of shot from the hip. I think he just felt like he needed to establish himself with a win this game. But now that he's kind of evened it up, I don't know what his mental state is. So it's I'm not sure where he's going.
Right. So, like, I guess we have the question of, do you go back to the Shaman, try to get a win with it, or is he still a little snake bitten from how badly that first game went, and he might just save it for last, just to try to get himself back on track even more? Maybe you go up 2-1, and then you say, okay, this deck didn't work out the first time, but now I have 2 games that I only have to win 1 of with it. You know, so it's really just a matter of kind of how you're looking at it, and it does look like that's the way he's going. So he's going to be bringing his Paladin, and it does look like a pure control Paladin based on the Coda and the Forbidden Healing we're seeing in the opening. And you actually called it correctly. I asked you what type of priest you thought Goodlife was taking. You said it might be Dragon, and you were right. You're doing pretty well in your predictions today, I gotta say.
Yeah, my Game Shark last night. Interesting, Dragon. I don't know how good Dragon Priest is nowadays, though.
It's going to be interesting because in this matchup, a Dragon Priest will have to try to play the role of the aggressor, which with certain draws will be just fine, with other draws will be difficult. So it's really going to be interesting. We do see already a very interesting interaction between the two players' hands. We see a True Silver Champion in Owen's hand and a Gluttonous Ooze in Goodlife's hand. Of course, Gluttonous Ooze with a lower mana cost, he will have to make that decision whether he plays the body on the board, again, understanding that he needs to be the aggressor in this matchup, or if he saves it to destroy a weapon. So I think that's actually going to make things very interesting already. Owen, of course, has the age-old problem of Paladin on turn 2 with nothing to do. He's going to play the Pyro, going to sacrifice the Pyro quality combo that was in his hand. Which does make sense. You do want to challenge the Northshire Cleric without giving it an opportunity to heal and draw a card. So giving up the Pyro quality combo was probably not the easiest decision for Owen, but one that he felt he needed to make. And I find it hard to argue with that. So we'll go ahead and looks like he's just going to Shadow Visions to try to find something. Power Word Shield is... He might even coin it out just to try to save his Northshire Cleric. That does look like what he's going to do.
Doing the exact same thing.
So Owen does not have a whole lot to do this turn. The only thing I can really say is, yeah, just go face with the Pyromancer and end. You don't want to make the 1/1 because you don't want to give him the free heal on the Northshire. Of course, he can still run it into the Pyro now, but chances are he's going to choose to develop the Glimmer Root instead.
Huh. Interesting. Consecration, I think, is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. There were some variations of the deck that ran Vine Cleaver a little while back, but I think the card's fallen a bit out of favor since then. It's certainly more useful in Wild, with the decks that focus around Silverhand recruits, but I think it's mostly fallen out of favor in these Control Paladin decks, so the Consecration was an easy pick.
I think it's just too slow, but yeah, Consecration definitely.
So he has a choice here. He can use that Consecration to clear the board. He can Gluttonous Ooze to destroy the True Silver Champion. Could even just develop a Priest at the Feast, which would take both the Weapon Charge and the Wild Pyro with it. He does decide to just go ahead and draw, so my guess would be a Shadow Word Pain would come out of the hand after that. So Goodlife is making it so Owen can't do a whole lot, but he's not developing much himself, and this Kodo is great for Owen. Removes the otherwise difficult to remove Northshire Cleric, or, you know, he would have had to use his weapon or otherwise, puts a body on the board, keeps a weapon. It's looking pretty good. Of course, you do have the option of Twilight Drake here, and perhaps even a Power Word Shield on top of it would be fairly difficult for Owen to deal with. So now we're looking at a 4-10. That's not the easiest thing to deal with. He does, of course, draw the second equality here. If he really needs to clear it, I feel like he'll probably just go for an Elise instead.
Yeah.
The 4-10 is hard to deal with, but it's not the highest threat minion. So we will see the Elise, and the Kodo looks like it's going face. So it's a very interesting dynamic of kind of which deck needs to play the part of the aggressor. Because we talked about in the beginning that Goodlife would probably want to pressure him out early because Control Paladin's late game is very strong. But now Owen realizes that he's in a position where he was getting a lot of his cards removed early, so he needs to be the one putting on the pressure.
Right, definitely. But how do you really do that with a hand like this?
Not easily. Elise was definitely good. It does put a 5/5 in the board. Right now, he's not holding much. The equality on this kind of board is going to work more against him than for him. Just let him see the Consecration come down just so he can clear off one of those minions. So actually not a very strong turn from Goodlife. He'll just heal up the Twilight Drake, so it's still at a 4/7. Given that he's holding both, I was going to say an equality might look good, but the draw of the Curator obviously changes that a little bit.
No, that helps. And he's running 2 of these, really. Oh, he gets a full...
Yeah, essentially a lot of these decks will only run 1 Kodo. Owen is choosing to run 2. Not sure how I feel about that, but it did allow him to draw an extra card this turn, so obviously it was the right call the whole time. So Dragonfire Potion will clear Owen's board, but it does just leave a 4/3, which a True Silver Champion can deal with. So he can choose... He has a lot of options here. I don't think he'll play the Primordial Drake. I think he'll go probably for some sort of Stonehill Defender Hydrologist turn.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, what do you take here? A Ball Creeper, maybe?
Yeah, I think Ball Creeper's the only real choice there. Yeah, Getaway Kodo makes a lot of sense. Getting either one of those back to your hand helps. I think he could have still played the Kodo, because even in the face of AoE, like a Primordial Drake, for example, the Hydrologist would have been the one that comes back with Getaway Kodo. So I think playing it would have...
Like, how do you determine...
What was that?
How do you know that it would be the Hydrologist?
It's what gets played first. So since the Hydrologist came into play before the Silverhand Recruit, that would be what comes back with Getaway Kodo.
Or wouldn't it be Stonehill then?
Well, I was saying if, say, Primordial Drake came down that deals 2 damage to all minions.
Okay, I got you.
So the Draconid Operative, definitely a great pull off of another Spite Historian. I'll just go ahead and play that right away. Oh, on Goropak! Oh, man! Well, that does create for some very interesting scenarios that we could see later on down the line. If this game goes long...
Cards from his... from his operative.
That's actually really, really funny. So we'll see the old Aldor Peacekeeper plus Kodo combo. Clear. So Owen does have a decent board right now. We love the pick of the Ongoro pack, but Drake only clears the Hydrologist. So it's not really that much. He will make it pretty fat, but this is a board where Owen's going to be perfectly happy to equality to be able to clear that Drake.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just as you suspect.
Especially with another one in hand, but even if you only had the one, it still is absolutely the right call. I would even say that maybe even punching face with True Silver wouldn't be a bad idea here.
The pressure.
Yeah, because he's only at 11 life. Tyrion's obviously easy, and especially with that, I would have preferred to see the True Silver Champion. Just to punch him, because he would go down to 7, and you still have a Tyrion in hand. I would have liked to see him really go for the pressure play with the True Silver Champion. This certainly isn't bad. It does put a couple extra bodies on board, but we'll see. Of course, it would have been punished by the Gluttonous Ooze, but even then, Owen doesn't know that he has that card, so...
And to play it as possible.
Those are two very good options. He might even take Raglight Lord since his life total is getting low. Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, you can't play it this turn.
Well, he couldn't play either one this turn.
Right. So how much damage do we have on Owen's side of the board? We have 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus 4 in hand from a True Silver. That looks like game.
Is this it?
If I did my math correctly, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah, 10 with the minions, 4 plus the True Silver in hand is 14 damage.
Yep, it's over.
Yeah, if Owen just plays a True Silver and goes face with everything, that's it. And I think he sees the play. Not a terribly difficult one to spot. So actually, my play of playing True Silver last turn would have been punished more by the Gluttonous Ooze. So Owen makes the right play.
Wanted to play it smart.
Yeah, goes ahead, takes the Game 3 victory. So there we go. So from down 1 game to none, Owen is now only 1 game away from taking this set.
Mm-hmm.
So very well done by him.
It looked like a really slow, big start for both our decks, but yeah, that snowballed quickly for Owen.
It really did. That was it was a very quick turnaround, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, as I said in the beginning, really Goodlife wanted to be the aggressor there, and he just did not have the cards to do it. Mm-hmm. Which allowed Owen to draw into what he needed to really take control there. So we are actually at a point now where the one deck that Owen has lost with is the only deck that he needs to win with. So again, this is where the whole mental thing really comes into play. So we're going to have to see. Now again, he does have 2 different chances to win with the Shaman deck. He has to beat either the Priest or the Druid. I think the Druid is his better matchup. The Priest, with a decent draw, Dragon Priest has a chance against the Token Shaman. Whereas again, Token Shaman can just overwhelm Jade Druid before it gets going. So I really think that's going to be the matchup that Owen's going to be looking for, which means I expect Goodlife will queue up the Priest first.
Yeah. Either way,
you have 2 ways of looking at that, right? Because either you queue up the Priest because you're like, all right, this is my better matchup, or you queue up the Druid because you say, this is my worst matchup, but I have to win it either way. So if I'm going to lose with it, might as well get it over with.
Perhaps. It seems to me, just the way he lost the first game with the Shaman, it feels like he can't really handle a lot of the constant taunts. And it looks like, I don't know, it looks like Goodlife kind of likes that playstyle.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. The only real taunts you're going to find in Jade Druid are the Jade Behemoths. Whereas the Dragon Priest can either play some, like Primordial Drakes, or he can discover some. So we'll see. It's definitely a better matchup for Goodlife with the Priest. So I said it's just a matter of whether he chooses to take his good matchup first, or if he chooses to take his bad matchup first because he has to win it no matter what. So we'll see what he decides to do there. So we will go ahead and let our competitors get into Game 4, where Owen does have match point on the line. Again, he did lose Game 1 with the Shaman against Goodlife's Control Paladin. But he doesn't have to worry about that matchup anymore. That was probably the worst matchup for him. So with that one out of the way, he has 2 decks that he's certainly capable of beating. Depending on the draws, of course. So we'll wait for them to get into game. Do you have a prediction going into Game 4?
Oh man, I don't have a real solid one, but I think Goodlife is going to try one more time with the Priest.
Okay.
And just hold on to the other one, his last deck as a clutch. But we'll see. That's just a guess.
Right. Maybe there's just pride on the line and says, you know what? Maybe take the good matchup first, so I can at least say it went to 5 games.
Right, precisely.
Okay. I got you. So in just a moment we'll find out which way he goes. I guess it's a matter of pride versus I don't know, efficiency, maybe, if you want to call it that. understanding that you will have to win this bad matchup at some point. But we will see what happens. So Owen up 2-1, and yeah, he will take his better matchup with the priest. So we'll see. Obviously, Owen's going to have some mulliganing to do here, because this is not a great opening hand. You could keep the Mana Tide, but the Bloodlust and the Devolve, I expect both will be pitched back. Yep, there we go. Yeah. On the other side, Goodlife has a decent opener, actually. He does get rid of the Draconic Operative to try to find something to do a little bit earlier in the game. Doesn't really find it. So there's no turn 1 Northshire Cleric, which is something this deck definitely wants to find as often as it can, especially against an empty board. Jade Claws are an option where he could just Totem. I expect he'll just Totem. There he goes. It's a pretty straightforward couple turns to start.
What do you take here? Maybe the Pain?
I would say Dragonfire Potion, just because he sees a slower start once again out of Owen.
Right.
So you're just playing for the longer game there of having that board clear. I think it was the right choice. And now Owen is very clear that he needs to buy that Mana Tide when it's possible.
The Claws, of course.
He will grab a Jade Claws for himself. I guess it would be the Jade Lightning coming down on the Glimmerit to protect. Or it could be Maelstrom Portal plus Jade Claws, and that looks like where he's going.
Okay.
You do want to protect your Mana Tide Totem for as long as you can. Try to build up that card advantage, especially on a board like this.
Definitely, and it looks like Owen's trying to kind of like beef up his board so he can evolve when the moment presents itself.
Right, yeah, either the Bloodlust or the Evolve. He does have a Flame Tongue Totem in hand as well, so that's another way to buff up his minions. So it's not bad. So on turn 5, if he wants it, he has the option to Jade Lightning to make a 2/2 Jade Golem. So when he plays Aya on turn 6, it makes a 3/3 into a 4/4, so it's not too weak. On the other side, for Goodlife, he doesn't have a lot of great options here. He doesn't have a way of getting rid of the Mana Tide Totem this turn, which means it will get off at least one more draw, unless he decides to go something like Jade Claws plus Potion of Madness a 1/1 just to kill the Mana Tide, or he could Potion of Madness a 1/1 into the other 1/1 just to take 2 minions off the board.
Yeah, if he Jade Claws, though, it messes up his turn 5 Dragonfire Potion, which I think that's what he's going.
You think he's going to look for a coin Dragonfire Potion on turn 5? He might be right. But pretty easy call, I think, to Jade Lightning this. I think you use the weapon charge to kill it. You save your 1/1.
Yeah.
He decides not to. Maybe fearing exactly that, the coin into Dragonfire Potion. It's not a super high-value play, though, for Goodlife, which is what's a little concerning for him. Yes, it'll clear the board, but look what's on the board. It's not a ton of huge threats that you're eliminating for yourself, and he doesn't have a Dragonfire Potion in his hand yet. There are still 2 in the deck, since this one was discovered off Shadow Visions. But it's not the highest value Dragonfire Potion, and the fact that he found no early minions to play is what's really causing him some struggles right now.
Oh, I guess he doesn't.
It will mean that if he wants to play it next turn, that he will have to coin it.
Exactly, but I knew for sure he would try to get rid of that.
Yeah, you have to clear the Mana Tide. Although again, it feels really, really bad for him because he potions a Madness as a 2/2 and just returns it right back to Owen at the end of the turn.
Yeah,
he doesn't get to trade it into anything really, so it stops the card draw, but it doesn't remove the minion from the board. So Owen's actually in quite good shape here, and now of course Dragonfire Potion is slightly awkward since it will leave behind a 4/4. It still might be worth it since a 4/4 is a lot less scary than what's currently on the board.
Yeah, I think 4 damage is better than what is this, 11?
Potentially more because you have the spell power as well. Again, it's one of those plays where I might do this because I have to, but I don't like it.
He may have to Dragonfire at this point.
Those are their options. His Netherspite Historian isn't even active since there's no dragon in the hand. So it's not like he can discover something cool from that.
Yeah, it's rough with like with the lack of dragons, I think.
Yeah, this was an exceptionally poor draw for Goodlife. If he had draws more similar to the ones that he got last game, even though he lost last game, draws more similar to that would have put him in a much better position to contest the board early in this game. But with no Northshire Cleric early, no dragons to really activate anything, he is in a rough spot. So he just goes ahead, Priest of the Feast, make it a little harder to kill with the Powerwood Shield, and regain some life. There's a dragon in the hand, finally, to activate the Netherspite Historian, if he chooses to go that route. And Priest of the Feast can take down 2 minions. Of course, Owen does have a Jade Lightning, or a Flame Tongue Totem, or a Maelstrom Portal, or a double Flame Tongue Totem. The options available to Owen right now are pretty ridiculous.
He can kind of go ham right now.
Obviously, Goodlife was hoping for a double trade into the Priest of the Feast. He's not going to get that. There's too many ways for Owen to deal with what's happening here.
Oh wow, and then he trades his gold to it, yeah.
So go with the Flame Tongue Totem, which I think was the right play. It was put in the right spot. Now you pretty much have to Dragonfire Potion, I think. It still leaves behind a 5/5, which is awful, but there's no way to not play that card at this point. With the Flame Tongue
You
Totem
have
on the
to.
board.
You have to. And then
And
what
I'll
is
go
he
ahead
going to
and point
do?
out there's Spider Historian just to try to discover maybe something better to do on turn 8. We'll find a second Primordial Drake, so he's at least going to be able to put some big taunts in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And Owen has run out of steam on the Jades for right now. Thing from below still feels like the best option, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously there's no real need for him to trade here. We'll just go ahead and pressure the damage right to the dome. Yeah, Primordial Drake's really his only option, but it's only clearing off 2 1/1s.
2 guys, yeah. He just leaves this guy in play.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, obviously, you have Maelstrom Portal, you have Flame Tongue Totem still. I do think we'll see the Maelstrom Portal come down. He might try to roll for Spell Power first. Looks like he will. Doesn't hit it, but that's fine.
I think that was a smart move.
Yeah, I think that was the right way to play that one. We'll use the Flame Tongue Totem to buff up Patches.
Okay.
Just trade the Primal Fin Totem in, so you get 7 damage. Up front, you can play a free thing from below. I think you play just the 1.
I don't know if you play it yet. I think maybe you just play the
Primal Fin?
The totem and
yeah.
maybe call.
Yeah, you know what, I mean, even just passing is okay, I suppose.
You never know if he has another Dragonfire or something weird.
So he will do that, and then Primordial Drake come down to leave only the Flame Tongue Totem left. And it was something like that maybe there was some reason to play out a thing from below, so you already had a 5/5 in play. But now he's just going to go all in on those. Of course, he does still have 1 more in hand, so I think I would have liked to have seen one thing from below played last turn. Yes, it's weak to Dragonfire Potion, but it's stronger against Primordial Drake play, so it's kind of a 50-50. But when you have 3 in hand that are all costing 0, I think you can afford to put one out there and see what happens. But either way, Dragonfire Potion was drawn off top of the deck, so that will clear off Owen's board.
I think that even though Owen's in a good position, I think that hurts.
It does. It absolutely does. An Evolve off the top would be great. Oh! I did it!
I did.
I did it.
It's nicely done, sir.
So yeah.
What does he get?
One of the less impressive ones, but it's still okay. Still puts a lot of good stuff on the board for him. The Auctioneer could come in handy. So we'll see. There's really not a lot of great options. I imagine we're going to see another Primordial Drake, but that doesn't even do a whole lot, really. So first we'll draw the Powerwood Shield. See what he can come up with. There's not a lot he can get here. Second Shadow Word Pain really does nothing.
He does have his Bookworm online, but what good targets is there for it, really?
There's nothing, really. I would expect the Primordial Drake just to put 8 more damage in between him and his face. That's really the only play you can make here. Yeah, is the trade in Primordial Drake.
And now, here's the steady, the defensive options that he had. Like, how does Owen get through these 2 taunt minions now?
How do you feel about killing the Primal Phantom there rather than the Gadgetzan option here?
I think it's okay, only because, I mean, Owen hasn't really shown to be using a lot of spells. He's only used, like, maybe the Evolve and...
Well, I mean, you have a few. He still has 1 Jade Lightning left in the deck, if I'm not mistaken. You have Devolves. You have different things. I don't know. I don't know if that was worth...
I don't know if it's very...
I don't know. Speaking of I don't know if the double trade there made a whole lot of sense.
Well, what else do? You have to get...
You pass and hope for maybe the second Jade Lightning? I don't know, just because he can only kill 1 of them on his turn. Not sure, he's only at 8 life now, but Owen's run out of steam.
Exactly. And this is what I mean about Goodlife's playstyle of just the heavy defense, and Owen not really being able to crack through it.
Mm-hmm. He was so close, but right now... It's actually looking a little sketchy.
Yeah, this is bad.
This game could... Actually looks like it's swung back in Goodlife's favor. We have seen a lot of back and forth games today. Alec here, maybe? He was hoping for an Alec here. I think Bog Creeper will be fine, though. He took the second Stonehill. Okay.
Me?
I think, yeah, Earth Elemental's probably fine. Do you evolve? I think you might even evolve here.
He may try to go for it.
You get 2 4-drops and 2 2-drops. Obviously, you worry about a Doomsayer coming off it, but... Alright, so he chooses not to. The thing is, you don't really want to evolve the Earth Elemental, though. Because your standard 6-drop is not as good as a 7-8 taunt.
Yeah, precisely. He may evolve before dropping the Earth Elemental, but we'll see.
Yeah, but he knew he was going to lose at least one of his minions this turn just from the board state, so... I don't know. I think you had to evolve on that turn when you have 4 minions in play. It's not the best evolve you're ever going to get, unless he's just saving it. And maybe this is his plan, and maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe he's saving it when he draws the second Doppelgangster.
Perhaps.
Maybe that's your play. You just wait for the second Doppelgangster to combo with the evolve, and you go from there.
Maybe he's hoping the Earth Elemental will clear some stuff when he attacks into it, and then evolve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perhaps. Let it get a trade or 2 in and then go for the evolve. We do see a Cabal Song Stealer in Goodlife's hand, so he can just go ahead and silence that taunt right off if he wants to. Or also... Shadow Word Death even, so that's actually even a better plan. So yeah, I think Owen's definitely going to need that Doppelgangster sooner rather than later.
And just completely wipes his board. Oh, he doesn't get...
Yeah, there's no dragon in hand.
Now what is the question?
Yeah, and that's really what I was being faced with. Do you devolve here? Probably not. Again, a 5-drop is probably going to have better stats than the Bookworms.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Goodlife is gaining 2 health every turn. Remember, he was at 6 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So now up to 12, he's going to be at 14 most likely if he chooses to go for a heal, which I imagine he will. Owen needs to find that Doppelgangster. You might even choose to double devolve at this point. Because... and you probably don't. And knowing Owen, I don't think he will. But... I guess the question is, were 2 4-drops and a 1-drop better odds for you than the board you're currently facing? And of course the Bloodlust will finish out the game.
Yeah, that's it. That was rough for Owen.
It was.
He kind of game.
Oof. That was a game that it looked like at first he was running away with. Looked to be in complete control. And suddenly the board clears of Goodlife were too much.
Yeah,
Too much for him to handle, and
those primordial drakes really stopped him in his tracks.
yeah, those were a huge deal. So now Owen's 0-2 with his shaman. Now he does have what should be a better matchup for the final game. He should have a better chance against the token druid, or sorry, against the jade druid rather. So we'll kind of see where this goes.
Just how long it takes for it to get on board.
Right.
To get in rather, but I mean, I think it's in the favor of Goodlife.
You like him here? I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say that I think Owen's favored here. But if Goodlife can have a draw like he did with the last time with the Druid, where he got his Jades ramping up very early, it will be tough. Now, Devolve is pretty good, this matchup. So we'll see. So I asked for 5 games. I got it. So let our competitors know they can go ahead and get started. I don't want to keep the suspense going any longer. I want to see who's going to come out on top in this best of 5. We've had a lot of back and forth.
Unfortunately, I am going to have to run.
All right, well, do appreciate you having you on. Wish you could catch the last game, but I will solo cast it. Thank you again to Shinfitz for joining us for this tournament series, and we're going to go ahead and head into Game 5 very shortly. So thank you, sir, for joining us. Your insight was appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me. Best of luck to both of the competitors.
Thank you. Alrighty, guys, so we are just waiting for Owen and Goodlife to be prepared to get into the final game. Obviously, there are no choices left as far as what decks they will be taking. It will be Goodlife's Jade Druid versus Owen's Token Shaman. Again, it is a matchup that the Token Shaman should theoretically be favored in. But as we've kind of learned today, really, anything is possible. Bloodsail Corsair is good for Owen if he doesn't draw patches, allow him to get kind of a fast start. Obviously, the dream turn from him will be if Goodlife can do nothing early and he can go Bloodsail Corsair plus patches into a turn 2 Flame Tongue Totem. Will be a very strong sequence. Again, Owen really just needs to pressure that life total early. Wild Growth on turn 2 is good for Goodlife. So if Owen does go with the Flame Tongue Totem play, which he won't, he's actually going to coin Mana Tide. However, Goodlife does have a swipe, and I was going to say that that applied to the Flame Tongue Totem as well, so I do expect a swipe will come down onto the Mana Tide totem. It'll clear everything except the Bloodsail Corsair. You do see it being queued up before he even draws his card. Obviously a very straightforward turn there. So he has some options. With the swipe down, he could go just for a Flame Tongue Totem, try to push damage. He goes for Mana Tide instead. Try to build his hand back up. So you'll see, oh, there is a Yogg in the deck. Not that that's shocking, but it's something that we hadn't seen drawn before. So if the game gets to that point, it is a little bit of a panic button for him. Fandral comes down with Jade Idol. So we'll see a 1-1 Jade and 3 Jade Idols get shuffled into the deck. The Doppelgangster Evolve combo is in hand for Owen. So now the question is going to be, how much does he value getting rid of this Fandral? My guess is pretty highly. And he might just go for a double Flame Tongue play. Goes for the Maelstrom Portal. Gets one of the best possible results in Flame Imp. And then chooses to push face. So he elects not to kill the Fandral. Which is fine, because again, the only way he was really doing that was with a double Flame Tongue Totem. So obviously Nourish with Fandral is incredibly strong. Draw 3 and gain the Mana Crystals. And it'll even allow him to Jade Blossom this turn as well. So with Innervate and Earthen Scales in hand, we see that Goodlife has a lot of things that he can do. So still one turn away from Doppelgangster Evolve being a possibility. We'll see what Owen does. My guess is he's going to choose to kill the Fandral at this point, seeing how much damage it's already done to him. I think it's a little too late, or no, at this point, he does trade off there, but the 3-1's obviously going face. Play the Bloodlust Officer. Now there is a Bloodlust in hand. I think that might be a read that Goodlife can make based on the way Owen's played this turn. So we'll probably see a Gadizen Auctioneer. He can Wrath something, he can Earthen Scales, so he can draw some cards, he can clear some of the board out. So this play is not going to go exactly the way that Owen had hoped. We'll see, that's interesting. I wonder if you maybe use the Wrath to clear off a 3-2 and then Fandral can trade for free into the 0-3 Flametongue Totem, but Swipe is a pretty good draw. Swipe is a pretty good draw. So that all but clears Owen's board. He had a play set up. Obviously, you know, it would have been great if it had gone off. The play he had in mind didn't quite work out. So it looks like he might just go for the Doppelgangster Evolve play. So let's see what he gets. That is not a bad result. That is not a bad result at all. So Goodlife does pick up a Jade Idol. Looks like he might Wrath for 4. Owen's got a pretty good board. I think Goodlife realizes at this point that he needs to clear things off. Understands against Token Shaman, you leave up a board like this, Bloodlust just ends the game. And again, based on the way Owen played last turn, I don't think it was too difficult for Goodlife to make the read that Bloodlust is probably in hand. So he's going to go ahead and Jade Idol. Here's a 3-3. That doesn't really do a whole lot right now. He knows he needs to start clearing minions off of this board. He has some of the tools to do that. Obviously, Earthen Scales is great for him. We'll Jade Idol again. So we can clear off both of the taunt minions. How much damage does Owen have? He's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He has 14 plus Jade Claws is 16. So Goodlife is slightly out of that range, and now the Jade Idols, or not the Jade Idols, but the Jade Golems rather, are ramping up considerably. Devolve feels like it's probably a good draw. Although, your standard 4-drop is probably better than a 2-3. Still feels like he's probably going to need to do it. I feel like maybe you almost go for a Devolve. You could even use your first Bloodlust plus Jade Claws, which puts him to 1, if I did my math right. It's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. No, not to 1, I'm sorry. It would put him to 3. But I think you have to go with a Bloodlust while you have these minions on board, because you know that he's going to be able to start trading. So that is exactly the play that he goes for. Ooh. I think Owen did make a mistake there. You always attack first before devolving, specifically for that reason, in case a taunt is gotten. So I do think he made a mistake there. Cost himself 5 damage. But it did clear a minion, so you can look at that how you want. But at this point now, Goodlife has too many things going on. Owen has very little happening. I think that's going to be it. I think there was maybe some thought for Owen to clearing the Fandral the first turn he had the opportunity to, and he did not. And I think that came back to bite him a little bit. And I see no way out of this game for him at this point. The Jades are just too big on Goodlife's side now. This is a matchup that Owen really wanted to have well in hand before now. And the fact that he didn't get there is very, very concerning for him. Of course, really what we all want to see is for Goodlife to just slam down Yogg and, you know, let the God of Death decide who wins this game, but I don't really anticipate that's going to be the way that he goes. So obviously a very solid series of trades for Goodlife here. Go ahead and just get some cards out of his hand with the Elementals and makes a 9/9 Jade Golem. There's really nothing for Owen to be able to do here. That's going to do it. There's no draw. Even a Devolve at this point really doesn't do a whole heck of a lot. And that will do it. That was an extremely back and forth series, both in terms of each individual game, as well as the series as a whole. So really, that was a great ride that the players brought us on there. So in the end, Goodlife does take it 3-2. This is the kind of series I think that is going to make a player like Owen wonder if he made a mistake in his deck lineup. He had 3 chances to win a game with his Shaman against 3 different decks, and he could not do it on any of them. He came very close, to be fair, against both the Priest and the Druid. Both of those games, he got Goodlife's life total quite low, but then ran out of steam. And that's got to hurt a little bit. And again, it's got to be where Owen wonders if maybe he should have brought a different class, or if perhaps even a different version of Shaman might have been best for him. We did see Owen eschew some of the more popular decks like Pirate Warrior or Taunt Warrior. Really, any warrior. There's plenty of powerful mage decks out there right now. He did instead go for the lineup that he felt most comfortable with, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. You do have to be comfortable with the decks that you're bringing. So yeah, so that will do it. I do want to thank both our competitors, Goodlife and Owen, for providing us really with a great series. Really very, very back and forth. A lot of fun. So congratulations to Goodlife. Once again, does win the series 3-2. Owen put up a great fight, but in the end is bested by Goodlife.